Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Drunk Friend podcast. As always, we're your host. I'm Trav, Nest Friend. That's Alex, Nest Drunk. Maybe you've seen it. Maybe you've seen it on the internet. It's got a lot of Super Nintendo games on there. But let's, Alex, I want to lead off. I want to lead off talking about one of my favorite people, which is Cuban Pete. Now, Cuban Pete has.
I love this guy. I love his name, Cuban Pete.
Cuban Pete.
Why can't you be like Virginia Trav? Why can't I be like New Mexico Alex?
Alex Bukirky. We've talked about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Alex Bukirky. Yeah, that's what we're going with. That's perfect. That's so much better. Rolls right off the tongue.
It does something to the tongue. You're right. The Cuban Pete is one of my favorite commenters because he goes hard in the paint and outside the paint and in the stands. He goes hard in the parking lot. He goes hard everywhere. And I'm not belittling Cuban Pete. If you're a listener to this podcast, I want you to. I'm tipping my hat to you right now because I've never put this much effort into writing anything ever, and I've written a dissertation. So the thing I like about this comment that I got on a Goonies video that came out last year sometime from my channel, I did a video that was Goonies and Goonies 2. Cuban Pete had some ideas. He had some ideas about how an official film sequel would go.
He had some ideas and some emojis is what he had.
He does like to, he'll type something like the word movie. He'll slap an emoji in there. He'll say something like diamond. Put that diamond emoji in there so that you can read and see what you're reading, which I appreciate. But
Tyrannosaurus Rex, not only did he put the T-Rex in there, but he puts the Brontosaurus in there just as a bonus.
Yes. Well, that's my favorite part about this is that I didn't read it. And but I can glance at parts of it and be extremely entertained because I feel like the whole context that Cuban Pete's given here, I don't know if I can fathom it. It's 36 lines. I didn't even know YouTube would let you do that. And he pointed out some things that I thought were interesting. Like, number one, he wants John Matuzak as Sloth to be brought back, which I think is great. He wants to recast the whole thing.
Is he still alive?
I have no idea. The guy said, "Hey, you guys, you got Sean Astin still around, Josh Brolin. I'm on it. I'm into that. But at some point later, if you look away and you look back, you start seeing other names in here because there's a Macho Man Randy Savage reference in here somewhere. There's Al Pacino in here, and then you take a sip of coffee, you look back, and then you're right, Alex. There is 3 lines listing out dinosaurs. He's got the Tyrannosaurus Rex in here, the Triceratops, the Brontosaurus, the Stegosaurus, the Pteranodon. And I don't want people to think like, wow, Cuban Pete.
Woolly Mammoth.
Yeah, I don't want people to think like Cuban Pete, he's crazy. No, all of these dinosaurs, I'll say, properly capitalized, all spelled correctly. I know what these dinosaurs are. I didn't have to guess that he was trying to tell me Pteranodon. No, he spelled that shit just right. He lists off a ton. Even one I don't even know, the Gigantopithecus, which is, and then he in a parenthesis says it's a giant orangutan ape. Like he knew I didn't know, but
he put it in. He even put the orangutan emoji in there just to make sure that to hammer that point home. Not only that, but he's like, it's going to be stop motion animated by Jim Danforth and the Chiodo brothers, and even creature animatronic by Carlo Rambaldi, and then the special effects are going to be done by Ernest Farino. This guy has the entire crew laid out for this movie. He says the film critics with a film camera emoji, Siskel and Ebert might give it 2 thumbs up and then a thumbs up emoji or down. Thumbs down emoji, but film emoji. Critic Leonard Maltin might think, with a think cloud, that Goonies 2 movie film emoji, just in case, might be a terrible film emoji sequel, but it turns out to be a knockoff of other films of the past, like King Kong /1976. The Blue Lagoon, 1980. Yeah. Why would he think this would be a ripoff of The Blue Lagoon? What the hell?
See, you made the mistake, Alex. You started reading it. Don't read it. You just look at it. You look at a couple words, you're like, look away. Because if you read it, you're like, whoa.
You're exactly right. I'm starting to read it. I read past 3 lines, and now I'm on the Blue... he wants a Goonies sequel to be comparable to The Blue Lagoon, which makes no sense at all. Unless he wants, Brooke Shields to be in this movie, which is odd, even though he doesn't mention Brooke Shields by name. But
now you're starting to turn into Cuban Pete right now. You need to calm down. You need to calm down. But Cuban Pete, thank you so much for that extremely long comment. I hearted it. I think that's fantastic. I love all fanfic Goonies 2/3 concepts.
Right.
I think that's great.
Right.
And you can tell Cuban Pete knows a lot about film and dinosaurs, which is, I mean, who else could you say that for besides maybe Michael Crichton? So
I was gonna say that's a great point, Michael Crichton.
Yeah. So there you go. So Cuban Pete, what's been on your radar lately, Alex? I had a great comment. Did you have any fun comments or anything going on there?
Well, what I wanted to do, I had a recent video on Rockman and bass, and it is bass. It's not bass like the fish. Unfortunately, I'd love Mega Man to be, like the Mega Man fishing game. I mean, we had Mega Man soccer.
Why not fishing?
Mega Man?
Yeah.
Why not fishing? But yeah, no, I'm a smartass, or as Al Michaels likes to say, he's a bit of a rascal at heart. So I love being like a huge smartass at any chance I get. I had an opportunity here because I was like, okay, this game is called in Japan Rockman and Forte, so I copy and paste the kanji into Google Translate, and it says Rakuman and Forute. So I'm like, okay, I'm like, is that like legit? Like, am I supposed to say Forute for everything? And then eventually I just reach a point where I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to fucking say, I'm not going to go as far as say Rakuman, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But Forute is a bridge I can cross. It's not a bridge too far for me. It's a bridge I can cross.
That's right.
So I was like, fuck this. I want all the all the pedantics out there to, you don't pronounce stuff correctly. Nonsense. Fine. Good. I'm glad I don't. Here's Forute up your freaking windpipe. And I got so many comments about like, that's how it's supposed to be. Well, actually, that's how
of course.
With a when you're an actual Japanese person, because it's an Italian word. Oh gosh, and I'm like, thank you for proving my point. It sounds like some sort of like retroactive master plan or something like that. But it's absurd. Of course it's absurd. It's fucking, I'm talking about 16-bit video games. But I wanted to just make fun of how people just care about that kind of stuff without being like overly obvious about it, I guess. But yeah, to be completely honest with you, Trav, I wasn't sure if it really was Forte or Forute or whether that was a thing. But an Italian word or what. I want to be a slave to Google Translate from now on. That's my point. I want to like do everything it says, but when it says Rakuman, like I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
like, that's too on the nose. But
I think so.
Forute is a little too is perfect for me. All those comments that came in saying like you weeb and all this sort of stuff, I was like, good. I'm very, very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think we're both appreciative of some constructive criticism, but it's always fun to poke those ones that don't know how to deliver that type of criticism without pushing their glasses so far up their face. And you can really get that tone, like through a YouTube comment. I can tell when someone pinched their nose when they said it, and that's the thing that annoys me. I mean, we're all trying to have fun here.
They scrunch their face, they frown, and then they go, they go, actually. No, I'm sorry.
That's my favorite thing that you do,
yeah.
No matter how
loud you do it. A lot of people
like
like that, but I told you last week that some people don't, so I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
I know.
And it's Pearl's fault because it's her voice.
It is.
Well, actually, she stole it from like.
So technically, her voice should be, or her feelings should be hurt, since you're technically making fun of her. I did a video on Toxic Crusaders, which is a Tromaville property, and boy, what a disappointment. You and I were talking about this a minute ago.
That game should be 1,000 times better than it really is.
I know, right? You're dealing with, I made the comment there in the old video, but you're basically, Swamp Thing trying to pass as a Ninja Turtle, and, I'm not against that. You got a mop, you already have a melee weapon built into the cannon, but goddamn, does it just suck? It's so bad. honestly, I guess it's not as bad as it is disappointing. There are worse games on the NES. There's maybe even worse beat 'em ups on the NES, but it's such a by the numbers thing that has bad hit detection and really just tried to get by on the cover art and the cool, quote unquote, 90s cool premise that it tried to deliver.
Yeah, it was like, to be honest, like, I think Captain Planet tried to do, like, saving the environment is cool, but like Toxic Avengers, I think, did a better job of that, because it was like, look what happened to me, I'm a mess because of pollution, or whatever. I don't even know if that's the actual like message of Toxic Crusaders, but
yeah, it kind of is. Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those games where you see it and you think it should have been like an arcade game. Like the sprites should be twice as big as they are. They should be fighting, like these huge enemies, and imagine like a Knights of the Round type game, only it's Toxic Crusaders characters and enemies. Like, man, oh man, that would be awesome. Like a Capcom adaptation of that. But unfortunately, what was the developer, like Taxon or something like that? I can't remember.
Toes, maybe.
So like actual Toes did the development of Toxic Crusaders.
Literally digits on someone's bare feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. And they should have been removed. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Toxic Crusaders was it should have been like way better. I remember thinking that even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, when I saw it was a Saturday morning cartoon for like a year.
That's right.
And I remember seeing it and being like, this seems like it should be fun. It's not. It's
have you looked
just
at
kind of not?
Have you looked at the Genesis version for your channel? Because
no,
I
have not.
Different enough. I think it's certainly more interesting than the NES one. It might be worth. I don't know if you'll want to cover it, but you might want to take a gander at it to see if it's something you might, because it is different enough to warrant its own explanation.
Is it a beat 'em up still, or what do you do?
It is. I feel like it borrows a lot more from the Turtles recipe. Like you start out on a skateboard.
Oh, okay.
You have some different characters that you can switch from, so you're not just the one guy, and the characters have some different abilities. So there's some variation there to keep it. It's much more interesting than the NES version. But I tried to play it a little bit, and it was. I was playing it on an emulator.
How dare you, Trav? You play on an emulator, and all your credibility is gone.
I know. I just wanted to say, like, I don't know if it was the emulation or the lag or whatever, but I couldn't control the fucking thing. Like, I had the skateboard, I couldn't keep it straight. I kept getting hit by cars constantly, so I don't know. Could just be me, is all I'm saying.
Oh, story of my life. Kept getting hit by cars.
Classic Alex. Speaking of Alex. Oh, boy, no segue there. Rockman and Bass. Huh? Bass?
You tried, but it didn't work out.
Rakuman?
Yeah, Rakuman and Forute. Yes, just as I alluded to earlier. I just wanted to be a big fucking smartass, as much of a smartass as I could. Mega Man and Bass. Because it's not Bass. It's Bass.
I know.
Because his wolf friend is named Treble, which kind of gives that away. But anyway, his wolf friend doesn't really show up in this game, unfortunately, which would have lended the game a lot of replay value. He only shows up in the form of like helper stuff you can buy in the shop after you collect a certain amount of bolts and all that sort of stuff. But by the way, I'm talking about a Mega Man game here when I'm talking about shops and bolts and all that crap and helpers. Yeah, it's stupid. Like, come on. You're Mega Man. Be Mega Man.
Disrupts the flow.
Yeah, it does. I wish this game was better than it is. It's way too hard. It's way too hard. It's so stupidly hard.
You just need to get good, Alex.
Yeah, I need to get good. I need to sit down and play this game for 700 straight hours, just like the Dark Souls series, because if you don't get good, then you don't deserve to say a word about the game. But if I played this game for 700 hours, like Nerd Voice just said, I would be miserable because there's so many insta-deaths in this game.
Oof.
There's so many like spikes. just it's one thing to at least like when you play something like Ninja Gaiden. Like Ninja Gaiden's got a health bar. Mega Man's got a health bar. It's like, use the health bar. That's why it's there. But no, we have to, incorporate all this other crap in there just to, I don't know. It's bad. It's not. Here's the thing though. When it comes to Mega Man, I tried to go over this when I was at the end of the video. It's like, even a bad Mega Man game is better than like your average game. It's like it's like pizza. It's like even shitty Jack's Pizza is better than like eating ramen. Well, maybe it's not.
Yeah, and I'm no pizza snob. You could hand me like a hubcap and put, I don't know, screws on it, and I'd be like, "Is this pizza? It is. Oh, this is great." So I get that.
Yeah, give me a hubcap. Give me a Chrysler hubcap from 1985.
Oh man,
throw that in the oven.
Good year.
Oh yeah, throw some Mexican cheese on there. Yeah, that's my shit.
That's pizza.
But it's I just wish it was better because it's Mega Man, and you should expect better because it's Mega Man, but it's not. And it's funny to me because it was one of those videos where I got a million comments, like way more comments than I normally do. But a lot fewer views than I normally get. I'm up to 461 comments on the video, and it was just posted yesterday. We're recording this on a Wednesday, and that's almost as many as, or I should say, that's more than Toy Story got, which was the video that posted the Tuesday before.
Interesting.
So we have lots of Mega Man fans that are very vocal, but not nearly as many casual viewers that just come by and just watch.
Yeah. I will say I don't normally comment on your stuff because I just go into Discord and I say, "Hey, Alex, shitty video." But this time you compelled me to comment because you made an obscure, not really an obscure because everyone should know Greg Gagne, but you made a baseball reference, and I felt compelled to point that out. So you even got me out there commenting.
What made me laugh was some guy thought I was referring to Greg Gagne, the son of Vern Gagne, the AWA wrestler.
Oh, I didn't even know that guy was a guy.
And I didn't even think of that until he was, and I was like, that's the wrong Greg Gagne. Oh. I meant Greg Gagne, the Twins shortstop.
Oh, Gagne. I even said Gagne here. Man, see?
No, it's Greg Gagne. Greg Gagne, but Greg Gagne is the son of the overpushed son, if there's any old school AWA wrestling fans listening. What the hell? Am I Mean Gene Okerlund? Fans, if you're watching right now, like, what the hell am I talking about? But anyway.
These are the fun facts people come here for, though, so keep going.
Greg Gagne and Greg Gagne are two different people. Greg Gagne, two-time World Series champion, by the way. Great shortstop. Very good fielder. Very gangly kind of a guy. You'd think a guy named Gagne would be like super buff. But
I guess you would.
No, he's not. Yeah, I'm just...
Very interesting.
That's called superfluousness.
If you guys want more Gagne and Gagne news, we got it coming up on the next episode. But first, Willow on the NES.
Yeah, Willow is different than the arcade game Willow. And it's also different than the Commodore 64 Amiga Willow, which is absolutely a train wreck of a game.
Oh.
Terrible game. I mean, it's not even a game. It's like 5 mini games, and
gross.
It tries to follow. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But the arcade game Willow is awesome, and the NES game Willow is also awesome. It's like just a top-down RPG, kind of like Crystalis, or it's a little bit Legend of Zelda-ish. Only there's like experience and leveling and all that good stuff, and you move from screen to screen and explore and fight monsters and all that sort of stuff. The thing is, though, the game makes it really easy to just like skip every enemy. Like,
oh, what?
Your only incentive to fight monsters is to level up, and once you've realized like, oh, I only need to be at level 8 or level 10 to fight this boss. It's just a matter of patience at that point. It's just like, oh, I hit him, I back off. I hit him with this spell, I back off. Yeah, but Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway,
I enjoyed the movie when I was a kid. It was one of my favorites. And then I tried to watch it again as an adult, and I was like, this movie is way too fucking long. It's only 2 hours, but for some reason around like the 1 hour mark, I was like, I think I'm done.
Yeah, the
Good
movie's it is a good movie. For some reason, the voices in that movie really annoy the heck out of me. Like the voices of, I'm sorry to say, but like Warwick Davis, his voice is just like on my ears, like scratching my eardrums. Mm-hmm. And the two guys, the little guys, the 3PO R2D2 ripoffs that those clear influences there. Those guys' voices, they're like the chipmunks, basically.
Are you Cuban Peting me right now? What's going on?
I might, yeah. Here's the thing. Here's how I would remake
no,
Willow. Do it. We're going to bring in this technical group. No, I don't know.
But no, I get you. I think I remember that being a part that I was like, I don't like this. It's a little too grating.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with this. The movie didn't sound good to my ears.
Yeah, but that Val Kilmer, what a hunk. What a hunk. All right.
What a piece of ass. No,
didn't see that coming. Okay, I guess we got some emails real quick before we get to our guest. So
how long have we been talking? Is this like 20 minutes already?
So it's pretty long.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'll start.
Cool.
Josh says Barasho means drunk. Sup, guys?
Oh, good to know.
By the way, yeah, Barasho means drunk.
Okay.
He says I just finished the Cannot Be Tamed Again episode and needed to correct Trav.
Oh.
Sorry, Trav. My Mexican bones just had to intervene.
Well, actually.
Anyway. Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
I guess. He's okay because we said something about Baracho. We didn't know what it meant. Or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
From a previous email.
Gotcha. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that.
So we just kind of brushed off the word Baracho because we didn't know what it meant.
Sure.
Anyway, I wanted to ask y'all, are we sure this guy's not from Texas or something?
Could be.
If there are any consoles you have not played at all or have really limited exposure to, but want to dive deeper into eventually. Mine would be the Dreamcast. I have yet to ever hold that weird controller in my hands. Thanks and adios, Josh.
I'm really into like weird, not weird, but the B team of consoles, right? So I sought out a 3DO and I don't know. I just like weird shit, right? I have a Gamecom for crying out loud.
You have a Tiger Gamecom, by the way.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have been. I should have given it a little more respect. But there are some that I want to get a hold of that I don't have. There are some handhelds specifically, like the Lynx and the Neo Geo Pocket Color that I'm.
Oh, I would love those. Oh, Neo Geo Pocket Color is legit. Really,
I really want to get my hands on those, but I don't have one, and I've never touched one.
My old roommate had one of those. He had a Sonic game. He had Bust a Move. Oh, what else did he? He had some like weird Street Fighter card fighter game where the fighting was done through cards, like card trading, kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh, only it was a fighting game. It was cool. I liked it a lot. This was in my tech school days, like back in the early 2000s, and he was like the only person in the universe to me that actually owned one of these like weird handheld. He
might still be.
So
I've yet to see one.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, knowing him, yeah, there's a good chance of that. But yeah, I really liked that one. For me, first of all, I love the Dreamcast, and the same guy I'm referring to, my old roommate, had a Dreamcast. We played lots of Crazy Taxi. Virtua Tennis was a big hit with us. Love that game to this day. What else was there on Dreamcast? I remember is it Shenmue or should I be the pedantic again and say Shenmue?
No, please don't. It's Shenmue, right?
I think it's Shenmue. I mean, if we're going to be like proper Americans, then we say Shenmue. But if we're going to be like pedantic assholes, then we say Shenmue. But I don't know. I don't care. Well, actually, but mine would probably be the Sega Saturn. There's a lot of the best games that are on that system that I haven't spent nearly enough time with. I'm talking about like Guardian Heroes, Nights into Dreams, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, man,
you got to get a Saturn. What's wrong?
Yeah, I almost did get a Saturn. When was it? Like 2007, I think. I had a Craigslist guy got one, and I chickened out at the last second. I felt bad. How old was I in 2007? I would have been like 24, 25, and I was very, very, very like reluctant to like meet people.
Oh, okay. You didn't want to get Craig stabbed.
And I didn't. I thought this guy was gonna like shank me with like a wooden thing that he like carved himself or something.
Which would have been impressive because no one puts their own work into it anymore. They just go buy knives, but.
Yeah, they just go. Yeah. They take they go to the army surplus store and buy a freaking, whatever.
Well, we need to get you one. You got to get that, and then one day a Switch, and then you'll be cool in everybody's eyes. I think people will stop picking on old Alex when he gets those two systems.
They could pick on me all they want. I don't care. Go ahead. Pick
it's
on
Forte.
Me. Pick.
Okay.
Pick away. Oh, Forte.
And he says, "Thanks and adios." Thank you, Josh, for the email there.
Thank you, Josh.
And if you have an Atari Lynx, please send it my way. Okay, up next we have, I'm not convinced it's not Alex using a pseudonym, but it's Adam/the Coffee Snob. Alex seems like he'd be snobby about coffee, I'm not sure. But he says, hello, friends who may or may not be drunk, and usually Alex is, so very good.
Well, actually...
He says, wanted to say that I've been enjoying listening to you guys these last few months while I've been waiting out the tail end of this pandemic/quarantine. The casual shooting the shit style of convo just makes me long more to hang out with my friends and family again, but for now you guys are filling a void in my life. That's good to hear, Adam. Thank you.
That's cool.
He says, I had 2 questions, each inspired by a recent episode. First, when you talked to Some Call Me Johnny and you got into the thick about coffee, my snob alarm started going off. I'm the kind of coffee drinker who owns a grinder, has 4 different machines to make coffee with, none of which are an automatic. Use a kettle. I use a kettle that sets the temperature to the exact right degree, usually 205. Only uses a fair trade single origins bean, etc., etc. With that said, number 1, would you let me make you a cup of some fancy Joe, or would you be morally opposed / have an aversion to it? And I will just go ahead and answer that and say, please make me some fancy Joe. I love all kinds of shit.
Please, that sounds amazing, especially if you're cooking it to the specified specifications of 205 degrees. If that's Fahrenheit, then that would be fair. If that's Celsius, that would not be the proper temperature, I'm afraid to say.
So good, man. It's very good. He says, and number 2, at a Starbucks or similar, what is your go-to order?
Ugh, Starbucks is gross.
Oh, this is a coffee snob coming out. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Starbucks is an inferior product. I do not appreciate their product.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking, you need to buy local. Listen, you need to think global, but you need to buy local. You need to understand that, Trav.
Gotcha.
And you need to understand that, Adam/coffee snob. Well, here in New Mexico, we have a place called Satellite Coffee, and then we also have Humble Coffee, and then we have a coffee stand that used to be by where I'm getting burnt out.
You're Cuban
running out of
me.
saliva. Yeah, I'm running out of saliva for my tongue here. We used to have a little stand that we would go to that popped up when the quarantine started. It was really nice. I would run over there and get like a lavender mocha for my girlfriend, which she really likes, and I would get just like a cappuccino or something really simple. But my go-to order is usually something extremely caffeinated and something really simple, whatever has the most amount of caffeine and is just like the least amount of ingredients, I guess. I like black coffee. I do need cream in there, no sugar. What about you?
I don't typically order coffee when I'm out, I'm just realizing, but I drink it every day. My wife makes a pot for us, so I wake up to some coffee. I don't know what coffee she uses. I love coffee, but I have no fucking idea what I'm drinking. If you just hand me a cup of something dark and brown and tell me it's hot, I'm probably going to assume it's coffee, and I'll probably like it. So I'm just not picky.
What if it's you ever accidentally drink some like some
10W40 motor oil or something like that? Like, is this Abilene? It's not bad.
I was gonna say, what's the vernacular for tobacco spit?
I think that's it.
Tobacco spit. Okay, all right. I thought there was like a fun word.
There
for
might
it,
be
like chaw.
I think that's when it's inside your mouth still.
Yeah, that's when it's still in your lip.
Chaw juice.
But,
I kind of
chaw
that paints
juice.
a picture.
There we go.
Yeah.
It does. Oh God, that's horrifying. There is a famous, not famous, but there is a story of who was it? I think it was one of the Dudley Boys or something like that in wrestling, or one of the. It was some like tag team guy. I remember that much. That he grabbed a cup from a fan at ringside, and he wanted to throw it in his opponent's face. He's a heel.
Yeah, I can see where
wants
this
to
is
be
going.
a dick, and it was nothing but
chaw juice,
craw juice. Yeah, chaw juice, and it was all over this guy, and you could tell it was. At first, I think even the announcers were like, "Oh, he threw coffee at the guy," and it's like, no, man, that ain't coffee.
That sucks.
And it's like, boy, I tell you what, that ain't coffee right there. The guy in the stands looked like Boomhauer.
Yeah.
The guy had a freaking fat lip for sure.
I might legitimately start fighting at that point if someone threw that at me. I'd be like, kayfabe is off. I am mad.
I wish I remembered. I want to say it was ECW or something like that. This is like 90s. So hopefully some of them will email us and say like, oh, actually, that was that, Takamichi Noku against the Great Sasuke in,
I hope they do. That'd be great.
Yeah. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Toes crossed.
All right, we have. He has a second part of his question, even though he said he had a couple questions, then he asked 2 questions already. He's got another second section with a different question. He says, second, AVGN has come up a lot in conversations on the show, particularly with Johnny Ethco. It made me wonder, what game would you do in AVGN-style episode of that he hasn't covered? And would you do anything apart from the play the game to make it special? Example given, I'm guessing Alex would do Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball and find a way to have Bill Lambier make a cameo. Not sure what game Trav hates with that much passion, though. Thanks for reading, and happy St. Patty's Day. You just missed it. Adam/the Coffee Snob.
Happy holidays, Adam.
Happy holidays, buddy. Good question there. We're huge fans of AVGN here. As it turns out, for my favorite system, James Rolfe has dunked on just about all the shitty games already. And I tried to think of a few, and I looked him up. I'm like, oh, yeah, he does have a video on Wayne's World. I forgot. So I just don't know.
Does he? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a shit ton of videos. There's ones I've forgotten that I'd seen that I know I've watched.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, for me, obviously, Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball. Fuck that game. I shared this earlier today, I think, actually, where I actually Google, or I search on YouTube Michael Jordan, Bill Lambier, just so I can watch Michael Jordan dunk on Bill Lambier. Just for fun.
Yeah, that felt good, I guess.
It's just fun to watch.
It's just like cathartic to see Bill Lambier suffer. Was that?
Well, it's still killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I get to watch the greatest of all time against the worst of all time. So I get to, it's 2 things accomplished in 1 video. So
there you go.
And there's a lot out there. There's a surprising amount of Michael Jordan, Bill Lambier. Those Pistons Bulls playoff series were intense, and
that's true.
They kicked the shit out of Jordan back then, and it was not cool until 91 came around, and then Jordan kicked the shit out of them finally. Pippen did too, especially. But anyway.
But yes, I'm sorry, Adam, I don't really have a good everything that I thought of James Rolfe has already done. I thought of Shaq Fu. I'm like, he's already done Shaq Fu. But Rocky and Bullwinkle, there was already a Rocky and Bullwinkle video, so I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, when it comes to NES, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I'm screwed. Totally
I don't
screwed.
know what you do.
Ugh.
But you'd have to go backwards to like ColecoVision or something. I don't know.
Maybe I would do Little Nemo. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, sick burn.
That's a joke. I love Little Nemo. For good reason.
Next email we got is Ryan. Hey, fellas. I just caught up on episode 42 with Cannot Be Tamed Again. And I wanted to say I really enjoyed the guest co-host format. I also got a kick out of Pickle Corner.
Man,
I forgot about
how
that.
loaded were we?
I got a last week. I did get a giant dill pickle with my sandwich, and it was from Grubhub, and I was really happy. I did take a big ass bite out of it. I didn't finish it. I just took a bite out of it.
Huh? Just so everyone knows, that's just Alex talking. That's not the email. He's just reminiscing about a good pickle he had lately.
That's just. Well, you know me. I got to reminisce about pickles. Anyway, Ryan continues. I also got a kick out of Pickle Corner, which reminded me of my own pickle obsession when I worked at Dairy Queen in high school. I would swipe a few slices direct from the 5-gallon bucket whenever I was in the fridge. Probably about 3 dozen per shift.
Whoa, 36 pickles a shift? Dude. Ryan.
Man,
that's a misdemeanor robbery at that point, I think. I think Dairy Queen could still take action. I don't know if you want us to publish this.
I love this email because it reminds me of Dairy Queen. There's no Dairy Queens down here in Albuquerque. Are there Dairy Queens in Virginia?
Yeah. What's wrong with Albuquerque?
Really?
Does it just melt inside because it's so hot?
Probably. I don't know. That's a good question. You'd think they'd thrive here, but not a single Dairy Queen. And there's tons. The original Dairy Queen, I think, is in North St. Paul, I think. It's got one of those. It's got your classic like walk up booth. Yeah, I love the Dairy Queen. Their hot food is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's flat out like a dumpster fire. Like it's terrible.
Yeah, I'm not big into it.
It's aggressively bad. Like their fries are like what? You can't sell these. Like these are awful.
You can't.
But their blizzards and stuff like that, dude. One of the worst stories I can tell is I remember showing up to work. And I had a few drinks the night before. I was feeling shitty. And this is like 2009, I think. And I was working downtown Minneapolis at the time. And so I went down the Skyway. And I went to the Skyway Dairy Queen. And it was like 9 a.m. It was right when they opened. No, it had to have been like 10 a.m. or something like that. But the point is, it was the morning. And I was feeling so shitty from the night before. I was like, you know what would sound good right now is like an Oreo Blizzard. So I got myself an Oreo Blizzard without eating anything else. And not great logic there. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
Really screwed up my stomach.
I bet, yeah.
I spent like 30 minutes in the bathroom. It was, you don't want to have an Oreo Blizzard when you're hungover.
No, it doesn't sound...
And you have nothing else in your stomach.
Jeez.
That wasn't good times. That was bad times.
As Alanis Morissette once said, you live, you learn. And I think you learned something that day, which is good. You also lahoo's you learn too, but...
Yeah, Lou.
That's different.
I see what you did there.
Sorry. I looked it up, by the way, and I know, gosh, we're just belaboring this. We need to get to the guest, but I spy 7 Dairy Queens in the Albuquerque area.
What?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, Albuquerque.
You got one over there on Coors Road Northwest. You got one over there on Isleta Boulevard. Got one on Catherine Avenue, Louisiana Boulevard. Cottonwood, but that's in the mall.
Yeah, Cottonwood's the mall. What the hell? Why haven't I spy? Let's see, Dairy Queen.
We have to. I'm sorry, folks. We have to get to the bottom of this.
We're doing this now.
I feel like Alex needs to.
Wait a second. You know what it is?
What is it?
The one nearest to me is a Dairy Queen Grill and Chill. I'm staying the hell away from that because that is garbage. That's hot food, and I'm just gonna puke when I see that.
I mean, are you saying that they just don't have ice cream in a Dairy Queen Grill and Chill? Because there's chill there. There's chill right there in the name. It's got chill in it.
It's just. Oh, there's another Grill and Chill down by the what do you call it? Route 66. Oh my God, what a disaster.
I'm just saying,
the thing is though, is that you're right. This Dairy Queen is in Albuquerque, and that's gross negligence on my part. So
yeah.
I apologize to all Dairy Queen fans. I want to set the record straight. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Dairy Queen.
I mean, you know what I just did for you? You dodged a whole bunch of well-actuallys, and you're welcome. You're welcome for that. I do whatever I can to play a little well-actually defense out here.
Thank you. Yeah, because we don't want the well-actually Dairy Queen police episode.
They're the worst.
It's beyond. It's a thing, folks. It's a thing.
It is.
It's bad.
Coming up next, we have a pretty fun guest who's making a fun game. that is on Kickstarter. You need to go check out that Kickstarter because it's a throwback. It harkens back to an NES game, Little Nemo, and while this game isn't related to that NES game, it's heavily inspired by the source material for Little Nemo. And if you do like the NES game, you're sure to love it. So stay tuned for some Chris Totten. Hey Chris, thanks so much for joining us here on Drunk Friend. To kick us off here, could you give us and our listeners the elevator pitch of your Kickstarter campaign?
In other words, can you kickstart this conversation with your Kickstarter campaign? Am I right?
All right. Hi, I'm Chris Totten. I am the founder and creator of Pie for Breakfast Studios, and we are kickstarting a game called Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends, which is a video game based on a 116-year-old comic strip that puts it squarely in the public domain. But people might remember Little Nemo from an NES game or a movie from the 1980s. So that character, again, is from a comic strip. He is in the public domain. So when we figured that out, we said, hey, these comics are gorgeous. Why don't we make a video game out of them with hand-drawn art? And that's what we are doing. It's a non-linear platformer. Imagine like a Demon's Crest or a Shantae type game with 4 playable characters. Each of them have their own unique abilities, and they can be swapped out at any time so that players can do the ability of one, swap to the other midair, do that character's ability, swap, coming out of that ability, and just start doing some like really cool chained combos and things like that. People who are familiar with the NES game, we are doing lots of references to that. We can't, because it belongs to Capcom, like remake it or anything. But, our intention is to create this sort of like love letter to Little Nemo, this character that really is an important one in the history of animation and comics. That's a sort of like all-in-one encompassing Little Nemo game. It references the comic, it references the cartoon, it references the NES game, and we want to really make people happy with it. Make a fun game to play that makes them feel good.
So when you say like the characters you can freely switch between 4 different, can you do that anytime during gameplay? Like, or is there like a menu that you have to do that, like Ninja Turtles on NES? Or how does that work?
So what it's going to do, the way we have it implemented right now, I mean, everything's subject to play testing with people,
sure.
But, you usually hit the L button and that'll bring up a radial menu. And,
nice.
You just like put use the D-pad or the stick to like navigate towards the character you want. And then it'll just like poof of smoke and then you'll be the next character.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of just getting used to in other words, it's easy for a player to be like, oh, let me flip to this guy real quick and just flip back. It's easy to flip between characters. That's what I'm hoping. When I hear that there's 4, because when you say Demon's Crest, that's like one of the biggest flaws for me,
we don't like
going
that
to
either.
That stupid menu.
Well, and the other inspiration is Little Samson. So, the game that costs like $2,000. And that was actually one of the other reasons that we wanted to make it this way was that we were like, well, Little Samson's cool, but nobody can afford it. So let's do some Little Samson things, and then people can enjoy that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. You have to pause and go to the thing, and also in that game you can like lose your characters. You just have one shared health bar. It's super easy to swap between them. We want people to be able to do it fast, and that's one of the things that we talk about with our audience and like the backers and things like that. We have a lot of speedrunners in our community, and we want it to be a game where somebody who wants to enjoy a story and like stop and smell the roses can do that. and the original comics were very much like that, where there'd be whole storylines where like Nemo's just going around looking at stuff. And some of the comics are really like, people should go look these up. There's a website called Comic Strip Library. Be forewarned, like it is a comic from the early 1900s, like 1905, and there are some stereotypes that don't stand up, which we are dealing with in our game. We don't have the stereotypes in our game, but sometimes it's really just this like amazing artist who is a better artist than I will ever be, showing off how he can draw, and Nemo being like, wow, that's really cool looking. So we want that to be part of the game. But the other thing we want is, again, when we talk to our speedrunner fans and things like that, we want something that they can take these character abilities and chain them and, break them as much as, this is going to involve some play testing to make sure they don't like break the game or, hit a game breaking bug or something like that. We want the people who want to play this at an extremely high level to feel like they can do that. And, same thing with like, we want to do things like, quick travel, skippable cutscenes, things like that. So people can really scoot through if they want, or, like I said, enjoy it and relax and enjoy beautiful scenery.
When you likened it to Shantae, I was all in, because that immediately made sense to me when you talked about switching characters and the nonlinear platformer piece. That is the closest in my mind as an analog to this as I can imagine. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to step back a little bit. First, I want to mention to everyone that's listening, if you've made it this far and you're like, what? This is a Kickstarter campaign that ends on April 1st, I believe. Is that correct? And
yes, and we are 72% there.
So it's gone up 2% since I looked earlier today. That is good news. So this will come out on a Friday, and so you'll have a little less than a week if you want to contribute to this Kickstarter campaign. And we will link that in the description of the podcast, so that if you do want to support this, you can do that. So I wanted to put that out front in case, just so that no one missed it. But I wanted to step way back, and I get that you probably, maybe you grew up enjoying the Little Nemo NES game. Maybe you were a bit of an art head as a kid, and you knew who Winsor McCay was, and impressed all of your friends with that knowledge. I don't know, an art head. What would you call that? A colored pencil head? I don't know. Someone who likes art.
I'm just kidding.
But what was your introduction into Little Nemo or Winsor McCay way back? I mean, assuming that you knew about this before you wanted to make a video game about it.
So it's funny. Like, I for some reason like remember exactly seeing the Little Nemo box at the grocery store, like rental counter area, like thinking like, oh, it's a Capcom game. Wow, Capcom is great, and then the box is so cool, right? And for the NES game I'm talking about, and took it home, got my butt kicked by it, but had a lot of fun. Enjoyed the music and the art a lot. Like, it's a gorgeous game. I was playing it the other day because I just got one of those AVS consoles, the FPGA thing. So we were enjoying some Little Nemo. And I'm way out of practice with it, but so I played that and it kind of stuck with me. I thought it was a really cool game. So it was one of those like regular rental type of games that you have when you don't have your own spending money to buy every game that you like. And I remember probably in college, either late high school or college, being like, oh, what was that one game I liked? Oh, yeah, Little Nemo. Yeah. So I looked it up, and then I found these comics because, like, when you Google something like that, you just get everything. And so I found these comics, and I was like, what is this? And again, like, really go check out the comics. Comics don't look like this anymore. They were comic strips, but they weren't like 4-panel comic strips. They were the entire page, like an entire newspaper size. So think, an entire newspaper, but that's the entire size of the comic strip. So you just had these really inventive panel layouts that would do really really experimental stuff. And you have to remember, this is an era, especially that the comic strip as a thing that was regularly in newspapers was like less than 20 years old as a regular thing. You know, there was like a few things in magazines and things like that beforehand, but it was really like a mass media thing for the first time for not very long at that point. So, you know, the use of like word balloons was not standardized yet. The use of panels was not standardized yet. So you have these things that are, some of them are almost like they could be stained glass windows, basically. And, you know, the drawing is, the rendering is so good. Plus, I have a background in architecture. Before I was a game developer, I went to architecture school. I worked doing like 3D art for architecture firms and things like that. And, you know, the architecture in it like really drew me in, because it was like, holy cow, look at this. You know, it's just one of the most beautiful pieces of comic art and beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen. So it was like, you know, that kind of became, you know, so I started reading them and enjoying them, and my wife eventually got me like a set of it and things like that. So again, when I learned that it was in the public domain, it was like, holy cow, you know, why has nobody made a video game about this? And then,
that's awesome.
You know, well, why don't we?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these panels, and you know, I'm not an art head myself, per se, not a student of it anyway. But I am blown away.
Are you an architecture head though?
I am not, actually.
We have an architecture head on our podcast here, just FYI.
Yeah, I'm not an art or architecture head, but I'm really impressed with the amount of detail that goes into these. And I'm not versed in this, but was Winsor McKay's, I guess, the effort that he put into this, did that alone stand out in its day, or was everyone just really going at it back then and everything looked like an acid trip? Because I'm looking at some of these things and they're so full of color and detail and whimsy, and it's kind of intimidating to look at, but it's really rich with quality. Was that common, or was that just him?
That was just him. I mean, there are illustrators that did, you know, like engraving style drawings, but they really kind of stand out. McKay like started drawing from a really young age and just like never stopped, would draw compulsively. And you hear about stories of like, he was like 5 foot nothing basically.
I
and
love
would
that phrase, 5 foot. You must have watched the movie Rudy. You're 5 foot nothing. You weigh 100 and nothing. And you come to Notre Dame you're leaving Notre Dame with a degree. I'm sorry to sidetrack you, but I love that phrase.
No, it's perfect. No, he's like a really short guy, and but he would do these billboards with like one pencil stroke, and the billboards were like 8 feet tall and things like that. So he became an unintentional like street performer at art. And you got to remember too, this was an era where it was like vaudeville, so that somebody could draw really fast was an act. So he became like actually kind of famous for his drawing ability just for these reasons. And he was putting out, because if you look at a Nemo, those were weekly on Sundays. But he was also putting out daily comics. And, you know, which like, if you look at them, there's a few, one is called Dream of the Rarebit Fiend, which is like the basic premise of that. If you think Nemo's trippy, Nemo is like trippy, but for kids. Dream of the Rarebit Fiend is trippy for adults and dark.
I'm into it. I'm gonna check that out.
Oh, it's incredible. But you know, the premise of it is that like somebody ate really rich food and then went to bed and then had a weird dream. But the dreams are like, again, they're screwed up.
Right.
So part of our game, and like again, McKay had a really dark sense of humor. There's even some Nemos that it's like, did he get his scripts mixed up? Did he put one in one pile and one in the other pile? Because there's like a few Nemos where it's like, I don't know, like Lovecrafty and horror. And they happen to be some of my favorites.
Sure.
But
does he have tentacles coming out of his face or something? Like, what the hell?
Well, there was one where like he's walking another character home, and they're walking through this like part of town with just like a ton of houses, and then the houses grow these spindly legs and then just start walking at them. and then they like they run them down, and then every comic ends with Nemo waking up. So he just wakes up from this, and it's incredible. It's wild.
See, I'm just thinking of Professor Frank's security system from The Simpsons, where the house has robotic legs and it runs down the road and tips over and explodes.
You're not far off. But like, yeah, actually, to get back to the game, one of the things that we had talked about with our approach to the villains of the game was like, what if the one comic was invading the other comic? And that's not literally what's happening, but it's like, our villains, like, this other comic, this is your bad guy.
I love that.
Yeah. So like, there's one where like, a mosquito lands on a guy and then just like keeps drinking and keeps drinking and keeps drinking and then explodes and the guy wakes up. That's not a Nemo, that's a Rarebit Fiend, but
it's a regular Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, the mosquito gets like wasted off of it too. It is it's that kind of imagery that we're like, yes, that like we want the bad guys to be like kind of scary, but not beyond E for everyone scary. Because I legitimately do want I have kids and they love this, by the way. They love that I'm working with this comic. My 21-month-old son, like my pandemic office is his bedroom also. So like every morning he wakes up and then so I put up like posters on the wall. So when I'm teaching, I can, have like what looks like my office behind me. I have my Nemo poster up and he always says good morning to the moon every morning. Yeah. Aww. So, like my kids love this. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, I don't want to make it too much, but a little bit.
Yeah, that's totally
There's a
fair.
Temptation, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, in doing the Little Nemo property, and I know you said it's public domain, so there was probably not many hoops to jump through. But were there any, curiously, for using this property at all?
No. Once something's in the public, we had to do extensive research on like trademarks and if there are any trademarks on Little Nemo and things like that. And there have been a few attempts, but they usually fizzle out because like Little Nemo is just out there. It's in the public domain. We obviously couldn't touch, like IDW Comics did a series in 2015 called Return to Slumberland, which they did copyright and things like trademark and things like that. But we're just staying away from other adaptations, again, apart from like some references. Like we do have a frog and a salamander, and like you will be able to feed them candy, but not for the same reason you could in the NES game. Candy is just like the currency in our game because like it's the dream of a 7-year-old, so candy is the most important thing. Yeah.
Of course.
I was curious about that. If how far away you had to make it from the Capcom game to be obviously non-derivative of that source of that game's recipe. If that was constantly a conscious decision to be like, well, don't go near that because Capcom did that and we don't want that trouble.
Well, there's some of that. I mean, you can't, unless your game mechanic is very, 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 very unique and novel and it's never been done before, it's hard to patent game mechanics, but at the same time, Little Nemo plus animal suits plus keys plus, at some point you're just ripping off the other game. So what we did was we were like, well, what kind of gameplay do we want to see from this? And you mentioned like, thinking about a Shantae game, and we were thinking a lot about Shantae because we were like, well, really what we did was look at the comic and let the comic be our guide. So we wanted to figure out like, what are you doing? What is Nemo doing in the comic? He's going and he's having an adventure and that adventure goes awry, and he wakes up. And because of that, we were like, okay, what if we did, and this is where the Shantae comes in, what if we did a Shantae type game where in Shantae or Monster World or Monster Boy, any of those kind of games, there's these like little mini Metroidvania areas, but you always go back to town instead of it being just like this sprawling maze like an actual Metroidvania. Nemo goes and explores an area and then wakes up, whether it be like I ate it and fell out of bed, or I beat the boss and I'm waking up and feeling great. But then you can go like explore his house and then unlock parts of his house and then get stuff from the house and then take that and be powered up and go back to Slumberland for the next area or something like that. So that's where the structure comes in, is that the house is really our hub, and it's going to be where a lot of your like base functions are, and then you kind of venture out via like getting into bed and then picking your map and then going to like starting on the checkpoint on the map where you want to go, and and
so there's like a dream hub world. That's really cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that we would love to add, it's in our stretch goals. We're also looking at publishing, partnerships with it. So one of the things we'd love to add, and I say this very carefully because like as a game developer, there's all those news stories where it really comes down to the game developer was talking about a thing they shouldn't have talked about in a certain way, and it turned into an announcement. So I'm always very careful not to announce anything. Yeah, but like, we've talked about this publicly previously. We'd love to do a flying bed kind of world map. Like, again, the Demon's Crest, where you kind of, you're on that overworld and you can fly around and, dive down on stuff. We'd love to do that with like the flying bed, which is another popular like thing in Nemo, at least from the movie. So we wanted to do something like that. Again, not announcing that, but wish list. So we want to like beef that up if we can. Another thing that we've talked a lot about is, in the house, like having a kitchen, and again, currently wish list item, but that kitchen would be where, if you go and you eat something, again, kind of like those other comics where, and Nemo did this gag for a while where it was like, oh, why'd you eat all those donuts? Now you're having like night terrors. But, if you go and you eat something, that could like maybe increase your, maybe buff, give you a buff or give you a debuff. And, you can...
I like how that's phrased. Yeah, it's a buff, just like an RPG, buff or a debuff before you go to sleep.
Yeah, basically, because like and we want there to be variable difficulty. Again, we want people to be able to play this as how they want. So imagine being a speedrunner and doing a moldy cheese run, and like that's it. Like lowers your jump ability or something. I don't know. Like your
sure
makes it so that you get extra something, but you only take a few hits to die or something like that. So we want that to be something that people can do to kind of like dare each other to do stuff. And then likewise, whatever the equivalent of I was just playing Mario 3D World before this, getting the golden shiny raccoon suit, the one that just kind of makes it easier. Like we could have stuff like that too for when you're playing with younger or less experienced players who really just want to like see the world.
So I have to ask, Mega Ran, also known as Random, and he's a chiptune DJ. Yep. For those that don't know him, Google him, look him up. He's awesome. He's contributing a track to the game. What's it been like working with him? And how did that connection come about?
So he's such a cool dude. He's such like a good. I just want to start with that. Like he is a good person. So I met him a few years ago, like really briefly. So I used to live in DC, and I work with the Smithsonian on this like arcade event called Smithsonian American Art Museum Arcade, or SAM Arcade. And one of the things that we did one year was have like a bunch of performers, and they also had an esports thing. Well, they got Megaran to do the announcing for the esports event, and he was like just kind of like really into the event, and he's like, "Hey, can I go like do some songs downstairs in your auditorium?" And so they said, "Yeah, sure, fine." And so he does this like surprise show, and during the show he says, "Hey everybody, I'm gonna do this song. The music is a little more obscure. You might not have heard of it. It's called it's from a game called Little Nemo the Dream Master." And I'm in the back, and this is years ago. This is like at the point where I had written down the first like foundational ideas for the game, but hadn't like made anything yet. And I'd been into Little Nemo and the NES game and the comics and all that other stuff. I yelped so loudly from the back that he goes, "Hey, somebody heard of it?" And so, but because I was helping run the event, I like gave him one of the event books and just chatted with him afterwards. Like, "Hey, thanks for doing that. That was awesome." And by the way, yeah, I was that guy that yelped at Little Nemo. I love Little Nemo. So we chatted about that for a bit. And then when the Kickstarter started, within the first week, like he also put out a piano version of his Dream Master, like Little Nemo song. And so I just like responded to the tweet about it and was like, "Hey, like we're doing a Little Nemo game." And we started chatting. He's like, "What can I do? What can I do? Like, let's talk. How can we work together on this?"
Nice. That's awesome.
So yeah, so we talked it out, and he's going to be on the album, and we're super excited about it because like we've also got Wayne Strange, who's he's done like Video Games Live and Materia Collective, and he's done some work with AAA and things like that. So we got the two of them chatting a little bit, and it was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is going to be amazing.
See, folks, Twitter's not inherently evil. There's some things that can come about of organically, and they can be good things. Twitter's not always true.
Right.
That's how this podcast started. Awkward interaction with Alex turned into a year-long commitment to talking to him weekly.
With this pandemic starting, I'm like, I don't know. What should I do with my extra time? Might as well start a podcast, I guess. I don't know. And Trav's like, "Really? I'm in." And I'm like,
wasn't there some sort of stat last year that like podcast mics were selling out everywhere because everybody was starting a podcast?
Yeah. It's a low bar of entry. You just have to have a microphone. I mean, that's all you got to have. But here we are.
47 episodes.
Yeah.
Or no,
we're killing it,
This
man.
is 46.
We're killing it.
Yeah, we're killing it.
I want to ask a little bit about the Kickstarter process, because I have given to some Kickstarters in my day. Some go well, some don't, and it's always a bit of a gamble. But your Kickstarter page is, I'll say, probably the best one I've ever seen. It's got so much information. There's a lot of, I don't know what you would call it, but certainly, I guess, proof that you're extremely capable of what you're trying to set out to do. There's a lot of animations, a lot of story and sprite work and levels and all that stuff.
I'm sorry. When I go to this Kickstarter page and I look at, I'm on my desktop computer and I look to the right at the scroll bar and it's like tiny. And I'm like, holy crap, look at the sheer amount of stuff on this Kickstarter page. It's like one thing after another, and it's all these like huge, all the artwork and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, to accentuate Trav's point, what he was saying, there's a ton. This is one of the most impressive Kickstarter pages I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, this guy is coming from a good place. It's clear because he's showing you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. First of all, that's a huge amount of praise. Because like there are a lot of Kickstarters that I have seen that I'm like, oh, Hyper Light Drifter,
yeah,
Shovel Knight, yeah, all those. We wanted to keep the text as minimal as we wanted to state things very plainly. And myself being I should mention I teach game development as my day job at a college in Ohio, Kent State University, and we so as an academic, keeping my word count low is always a challenge. So I always welcome those opportunities to grow as a writer. But yeah, trying to kind of just get information out really quickly and get to the eye candy and have lots of eye candy. One of the things that, if you really look at Kickstarters, you're either going to see, basically we wanted to show we have gameplay, we have a lot of content, since putting the video together, because, and let me tell anybody who's a gamer out there, if you watch E3, for example, most of those demos and trailers and things are totally faked. And, the person just doesn't go to the part where it'll make the computer smoke and things like that. So basically we set the game up to be functional with all the core features so that we could capture video. Now we're actually tearing all the guts of the game back out so that we can, Ben is basically putting it all back together in we made it work, now let's make it work efficiently. And it's even better now. The physics are even better now, which is quite an achievement. But, usually we wanted to show we have tons of gameplay, lots of content, lots of animation. So basically I just spent, you were talking about, doing stuff in the pandemic. Basically, I just put myself on a very specific regimen of just sitting down every day and drawing frames of animation, sending them to everybody, having them take a look, things like that. And I'm actually a self-taught animator, but Ben, actually, who's our programmer, he went to animation school and has done hand-drawn cell painting, everything. So I always ran it by him to be does this look okay? And, he was always my sanity check. And then, we've got some other, I teach in an animation school, so we've got other animators around to say yay or nay. So, we wanted to, for people who were going to actually read the page, we wanted to describe it. For people who are going to scroll through and look at the pictures, we wanted there to be lots to look at as a sort of yes, we are capable of doing this. Yes, look at our process, look behind the curtain. And then we wanted our video to just be full of gameplay. Because, you do see a lot of Kickstarters that are maybe a second or two of gameplay and then, animated intro or something like that. We wanted to it's one of those things where I know a lot of people in the game industry, but apart from a few really famous names, gamers don't always know people in the game industry. And we're very aware of that. So it's how much proof can we put into this Kickstarter page so that, even if people are oh, who's that guy? I've never heard of that guy before, but they'll look at the page and be oh, okay, they've done their work. And, we've got several, Ben's been doing this at least 20 years. I've been doing this for 15, Adrian's 15 or 16 years. So we've got collective decades of experience and have launched a bunch of stuff. So, as doing a game project, it's definitely in good hands.
Yeah, it's very evident, and just the amount of work that went into the Kickstarter and preparing all of that stuff and getting your concept down into something that you could record as gameplay. I mean, you did all that with no Kickstart money. So what was the amount of work and time that it took to put into just getting that campaign off the ground? Because it looks like a ton. It looks like my entire year's salary would be necessary times 3 to even pull some of this off just to get started.
Yeah, I have been doing this on half days for at least the last year. Like I said, I mean, this really is our pandemic project. And one of the things that's nice about that academic world that I work in is that, I can do stuff like this and attach this to like my tenure case and, have this be my creative output. And especially since my program is a games and animation program, I can take this material and kind of box it up as a way to say, like, we are critically analyzing this seminal piece of animation and comic art and art history through the lens of like a game development process. And sorry for suddenly getting very academic on you, but it's the kind of thing that we can. It's why the game is so detailed, because I have to be detailed and I want to be detailed, because that is like kind of the mode that, it's like we I don't know, we're digging through the earth and we keep finding like cool stuff underneath and we want to keep going. So that's one of the wonderful things about this project. And, it just, the stars kind of align with, we were home a lot and had a lot of, had more time to get stuff like this done. But also, this is just kind of how my day job is. And, the two things meet in a really nice place that we can make this really rich piece of game artwork.
We've done a great job, and I'm really hoping that it works out here with the Kickstarter. You're, like you said earlier, you're at 70%. You got about 7 days to go. I got to ask, how are you feeling about it? Are you feeling pretty good about it?
I'm feeling pretty good. We're less than 20K away, like very much less than. So like 19,300 something.
You're refreshing the same page I'm on, I can tell. Yeah. Are you neurotically hitting refresh on that these days?
Well, the nice thing is that Kickstarter, like the little green number, just kind of auto.
I've been refreshing for no reason. Then.
Yeah.
Good to know.
But it Kickstarter, I don't wish these on anybody, because I've previously done one. I did one of these and talking about like getting all academic with your game. So I've actually done public domain games before. I did one, a tabletop game based on the book Don Quixote, and same kind of thing, like make cool game, but make it like, what if we analyzed this novel through a game and did this very deep dive into it. And it just became a fun party game that you can use to like tell your friends it's a party game, and then you actually trick them into playing a tabletop RPG. So like I've launched these public domain things before, and I did a Kickstarter for it, and that was like for way less scale of money. But oh man, Kickstarters are tough. Kickstarters are really tough because it's just so stressful. And then it's funny. I feel like on one hand, Kickstarter is really great because it allows you to get the thing in front of people, but also there have been enough Kickstarters that have crashed and burned that you have to really, and this is why our page contains so much proof and information. People approach Kickstarter now with a bit of skepticism.
Yeah, totally.
And again, this is why we want to make it very clear to folks like, hey, look, we get that. We backed some of those too. And, we want to make sure that folks know that, the game is in good hands. But, part of that does come with the stress of like, it's easy to reach an audience, but then also other places don't want to talk to you because it's a Kickstarter, and like Kickstarters aren't really news like they used to be. So it's unless you're one of those campaigns that goes in with a big marketing budget beforehand, which, we decided to do all our own marketing to save money. Because you see those ones that are like funded in, 12 hours or something like that. Those are usually the ones that are they have somebody taking out a ton of ads for them and things like that. We've really been trying to get this in front of people, get it in front of eyes, get on podcasts like this one, which thank you for inviting me, by the way. And really pounding pavement to get eyes on it. But as a result, I'm very tired.
I bet.
Well, hopefully you're not, we're not exhausting you too bad here. As far as like the games, the core mechanics go of the game itself, you've got your 4 playable characters. Do you have you've got Nemo's house, the night sky, the mushroom forest. Do you have is there a password system? Am I going to have to write down passwords? No, I'm just kidding. This is like an NES game, but you do have boss fights, right, which is awesome. I love games with boss fights. But yeah,
we wanted a big boss fight. Like, again, the thing with McKay is that there are some screwed up monsters in that comic. Like, there are those, if you go on the Kickstarter page, there's some clowns that are called the Pie Eaters. I mean, they're it. They are it. They're Pennywise, basically, before there was Pennywise. Like, they want to eat him. So we were like, well, there is a boss. But yeah, there are tons of screwed up things like this.
It just lends itself really well to a game, is the whole point.
Yeah.
Hence why it's been a movie, from the anime in 1989. And the game, the Little Nemo, the Dream Master, which, by the way, has is that an arcade port? Is the NES game an arcade port, or did the arcade game come later, or like?
I don't think it's a port.
I can't remember which one came. It might have been the home console one. They are very different.
Yeah, I was gonna say they look really different, but I was like, holy crap! Like,
well, and it's funny too because like they are not like McKay at all in some parts, and then they are like really like McKay in other parts. Because the NES game,
I might have to look into this further. This is really interesting to me. Okay, so
like Nemo never wears any animals as a suit in the original comic, or anything like that. But like, there is a mushroom forest in the comic, and that's why we're using a mushroom forest, because it's actually one of the like cool scenes in the comic. There's Topsy Turvy, the upside down house. That's actually based on a story arc in the comic called Befuddle Hall. That's basically just like a fun house. Think of like the beginning of Willy Wonka when they're going through and there's like the hallway where they get smaller and, all the weird optical illusions. That's what Befuddle Hall is. So they have that. And then the game has like other stuff from the comic. They're on this car where the wheels aren't actually wheels. They're like goats or something like that. That's a thing in the comic that was in the movie. Each of them have their own bit of Winsor McKay in there. We really wanted to dive in and like kind of put it all in and have a holistic look.
Yeah, fantastic.
The arcade game is the only game though so far that you can play as Flip. And Flip is like, for those who don't know, Flip is Little Nemo's like best friend. He's a clown, and he's actually like a really cool character. I'd say he gets like the most character development over the entire comic strip, but he's only ever been playable in the arcade game. So that was one of the first things we said is like, well, we have to have playable Flip. Like he can't not be playable. So, look forward to that.
Very cool.
Right on. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for stopping by and filling us in on this incredible game that you guys are working on, and hopefully you get a chance to make with this successful Kickstarter. So once again, everybody, if you check that podcast description or just Google Kickstarter Little Nemo, that's how I found it, you'll be taken to the page, and it's full of information, a lot of colors, which was my favorite part because I don't like to read. So it was a fantastic looking Kickstarter page, I gotta say. So everyone, please check that out. Any last things you want to say about the Kickstarter campaign here, Chris, before we go?
We know that there's a lot of fans of the different Little Nemo media out there. We hear you. We're listening to you. Come join our community. Come reach out to us. We're very approachable. I'm at Totter87 on Twitter. I love talking about this, obviously, as you've heard. So please, don't be afraid to ask me about the game or the campaign or anything like that. We know folks are always a little hesitant about Kickstarters nowadays after some of those projects that have gone awry, but we've got a lot of awesome people in our corner. We're talking to a lot of other awesome people that are going to help us out. And we're really just excited for people to join us on this journey to explore this like important piece of animation and art and make something really, really magical. So, come help us, meet our goal.
Right on.
Right on. And did you beat me to the right on there, Trav? I was going to say right on, but
sorry.
It's like
I'll edit mine out.
Split second. Come on. You got to edit that out. And I really appreciate your use of the word folks. I don't hear many other folks saying folks as often as you do, or as often as me. So when I hear folks use as often as you do, so I appreciate that. Just want to say that.
It's very inclusive.
Yeah, it is. It's inclusive and it's all encompassing. And check this game out. Check out the Kickstarter. Make sure that this becomes a game and all that sort of stuff. So we appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate being on. Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
All right, everyone. That's been another Drunk Friend podcast. As always, you can reach out to us with questions or comments at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. And please do. We love hearing from you. We'll respond here eventually. We got caught up all the way to St. Patrick's Day, so we're pretty close. Sorry we're slow, though. Please.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays, though. Please keep that coming, because you honestly, you never know. And Easter's coming. Please head over to polymedianetwork.com if you want to hear more podcasts like this one. There's Tales of the Lesser Medium if you like funny video game narratives. We dunk on Resident Evil and Half-Life and all that stuff. It's pretty fun. Petey's Power Hour with our friend Michelle. If you want to learn about the toxins you're ingesting whenever you pour yourself a cocktail, Petey has all the information. And Polykill.
Yum.
If you just want to hear about two dudes, one of them's me, and the other one is someone that's better at games than me, and we talk about why I'm so bad at video games. It's entertaining. And Indie Quest about indie games.
And more.
Oh, and more,
and if
yes.
you're not interested...
Goddamn, I almost forgot the more. More.
And if you're not interested in sending us an email, I don't blame you because we don't read them. But anyway, it's not a big deal. Just give us a rating and review on a podcast app of your choice, and that'll help us out big time.
Please rate and review. I hear you out there. You probably just hit skip or stop the podcast because you're like, I don't want to rate and review anything.
Don't do that.
You rate and review it, please.
The hell is your problem? You son of a bitch. You can find us all... I
wasn't going to go that far, but Alex is right.
You can find us all on social media. I'm just going to read the rest of this because you're in such a bad mood. You can find all of us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Trav's Plays Games.
Oh, boy, you're not.
Alex is, of course, at SNESDrunk, and you can find at Totter87 on Twitter. That's our guest, and you can also find him at PFB Studios for more information on the Little Nemo game that he is producing. So, and as always, the music you heard in the beginning and you can hear right now is composed by our friend Coolor. The track you heard is called Electric Starbounce. You can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page. Shout out to Josh Leslie for our thirst-quenching logo and our pal Seth Hoffman for landing us some great guests.
Thank you, Seth, Josh, and Coolor. Be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day.